Hello to my 6th grade Gators. We're going to be looking at some comma rules today. If you've got pencil and paper, go ahead and get those out. Even better if you have a notebook or journal where you're keeping all of your things together for reading and writing. You might want to write some of these down. You can pause this video. That way you can refer back to your notes next time you have a writing assignment. Today we're looking at commas in a series, commas used with appositives, and commas used with introductory clauses. The first rule we're going to look at is commas in a series. Commas are going to be used to separate items when there are more than 3 items in the series. You can use a conjunction when you are looking at 2. When you get to 3 items, it helps to have commas to separate them. So let's look at this example. Ms. Parkerson went to the store to buy bread, peanut butter, and jelly. Even as I read it, you can almost tell where the commas belong, but let's see why it's important to use commas to separate those items. Maybe you've gone to the store with the grown-ups in your house. Have you ever seen Goober grape? It's peanut butter and jelly in one jar. So if you haven't used a comma in this sentence here to separate which items are specific, somebody might think you want bread, peanuts, a peanut, butter, and jelly. Or they could think you mean this Goober grape. Instead, maybe what that person meant was these 3 separate items. Miss Parkerson went to the store to buy bread, 1 item, add a comma. Peanut butter, another item, add a comma, and jelly. So that's why it could be very important to make sure you've used commas correctly in a series. You can use this as an example. Our next rule is commas used with appositives. And an appositive, that's a very specific word to describe when you have a noun given as extra information to describe another noun or pronoun that's in the sentence. And it sounds really confusing because that word appositive is there, but let's look at some examples to help us understand. We can use this one of 2 ways. So, Ms. Hainel, my reading teacher, is reading Ghost by Jason Reynolds. You could flip those nouns around and say, my reading teacher, Ms. Hainel, is reading Ghost by Jason Reynolds. Each of those sentences have extra information that you would usually set aside in an appositive. So let me show you why they have extra information. These sentences are still correct. Mrs. Hainel is reading Ghost by Jason Reynolds. My reading teacher is reading Ghost by Mrs. Reynolds. Maybe it helps your family to know which teacher you're talking about, or maybe you changed reading teachers, and so you're giving extra information. So the way to correct these example sentences, we have Mrs. Hainel, you put a comma right after the name, my reading teacher, because that describes who Mrs. Hainel is. All right, in our second example, my reading teacher, that's your noun, so now you're going to give extra information. You add that comma. Maybe your parents think you're talking about Miss Crenshaw. Maybe your grandparents think you're talking about Miss Robinson. So you want to clarify which teacher is your reading teacher. You put in that comma. So now these nouns here are describing the main primary noun or subject of your sentence. That's what an appositive is, and that's how they're used to separate the extra information. The last one that we want to look at is commas with an introductory phrase. That's when a comma is used to give extra information, a little bit like an appositive, or to set the stage for your complete sentence, okay? An introductory phrase is usually a dependent clause. It depends on the rest of the sentence to make sense. Okay, the rest of the sentence should be a complete sentence, so it's an independent clause. It can stand alone and make sense with a subject and a verb. So our example, and I wish this was true, last weekend I went to the beach. Really wish that was true. Your introductory phrase is last weekend. You put a comma right there, last weekend. So now your independent sentence, I went to the beach, could stand all by itself, but last weekend gives that little bit of extra information. I hope that this helps you understand and maybe remember some of our comma rules. Make sure, again, review this video, stop and take some notes so that you have it to refer to. Good luck with your writing, Gators.